Hello guys, you're welcome once again to another lesson that is on the secondary device. On this very particular chapter lesson, you should be able as a person understand this. But before you can understand this chapter, please watch previous lessons. And the last lesson we saw the input and output devices. So here we're going to see a very important aspect of our module structure, which deals on the what. And before that, please remember to subscribe and then ask your questions. Now, in this very lesson, we are looking at secondary storage. And now here are the lessons um, objectives or outcomes. Okay. So by the end of this, you should be able to distinguish between primary and secondary storage, and then identify and implement characteristics of secondary storage, and on and on and on, and on and on. Define cloud storage and cloud storage services. And then the last but not the least, describe max storage device, enterprise storage system, and on and on and on. Okay. Now, in our introduction, look at this. Data storage has expanded, right? Before now, when we talk about storage, we're looking at text, numerical numbers, possibly audio and videos, right? But it has moved beyond that. That now, videos, full video files, audio files, and all the rest of them are now a component of our storages. So these types of files require secondary storage. That we have a massive amount of storage requirement that our computers, our devices, our personal devices cannot do not have the capacity to hold. And because of that, we need a secondary storage to enable our primary storage to hold more data, to enable our system not to be overloaded with a lot of things, not to slow down the speed, not to render our system incapacitated to do what it needs to do. So based on this limitation in the primary storage, secondary storage is essential for you not to overburden your primary storage. Okay? So what are those storage? We have primary, which are volatile, meaning what? It loses data when when the computer loses power. We saw it in two previous lesson. Now, in this storage, we have a temporary storage within the primary storage, which is random access memory. Now, which typically do not hold data long. It holds the data you are working on. Now, our secondary storage within the family of storage is what? It's non volatile, meaning what? That it stores program and data regardless of what the power situation where you are in your device, in your computer. Meaning what? We can put it this way: it's a permanent storage that is kind of storage that holds those those data that comes with the computer. Remember, every system have inbuilt programs, and those programs that are inbuilt are all stored on what? As part of what? Our permanent storage aspect. So now, a secondary storage can also be seen as that device that is not really part of the main device. Okay. Now, solid storage characteristics has this. It has the media, which is the physical material that holds the data, the program, the file that you want to store. Also, the capacity, how much media, how much can it hold? For example, if you want to expand your hard disk, these are the things you're talking about. What is the capacity of this hard disk? So that what you know the amount of data, the amount of information, amount of content you can load on it. You have the storage device itself, which is the physical hardware. You have the access, the amount of time it requires to retrieve data, content from it, because it's not okay for you to store your data, but it takes forever for it to load, for it to be retrieved. And then the writing, the process of saving information to the storage, and then the reading, which is the process of what accessing information from the storage. So the timing, the reading, the writing, these are all fundamental aspects of your what the um the characteristics of what the attribute of your storage, of your secondary storage. Now, using the example of our hard disk, right? Remember, every device, computer device, have this element of a hard disk where where you store your data permanently, right? Now, also you have a hard disk that can be an external. You have inbuilt hard disk, have external hard disk, which is what a secondary storage, right? Which save file by altering the magnetic charge of the disk surface by representing it in zeros and ones and zeros. Remember, in our previous class, I told you, studies were told that computer do not understand your written text. Those texts you are inputting in our last lesson, which is input and output, those data you are putting through your input devices, the computer looks at them, interpret them into zeros and ones and zeros. It process them before giving you output, and that's exactly how it's being represented, how it's being stored on your hard disk, right? Using rigid metallic plastic, right? As you can see on your screen. And now, also, this hard disk do not live forever. There are things that can cause it to fail, that can lead to its failure. And one of them is what is called, and when it leads to that failure, it's called what? Crash. And for this crash to take place, it mainly happens on the head crash, which occurs when the read write head makes contact with the hard this surface, or with a particular with particulars on its surface. In that case right now, it can crash, right? Okay. Now, there are types of hard disk which can work internal. I talked about it. There's internal that comes to the computer where the system programs have been installed, right? And then you also the external, which is what the one that can be detached away from the device. You can attach it or detach it through using through the ports, okay, of your device. Now, the performance enhancement it comes in three phases. This happen now. Your disk that is working, your hard disk needs to be improved. The performance needs to improve. The functionality needs to improve. And for that to happen, it's called what? Performance enhancement, which are in three steps to enhance the performance. It can be what? Disk caching, um, read, file compression, file decompression. On your caching aspect, you use the cache and to anticipate data needs, to anticipate, to understand the need, the level of need of a data in that very disk. Also, you have your read link inexpensive hard disk driver. Okay, have your reducing the file size and then compressing and expanding of your file. Okay, you have your solid state storage, which also have no moving parts, as you can see on the screen, which fast and more durable than your hard disk. So in a place of a hard disk, you can also use a solid state storage for you to perform the same task of what? Storing your data, your files into a secondary um, device. Okay. We have our flash memory, as you can see on the screen, which are also used to do what? In a laptop, your desktop, and all the rest of them. GPS to do what? To install files that can be retrieved, read, and write. Also, we have our, as you can see on the screen as well, we have our USB device, flash device, right? Which are connected to the USB port to do what? To enable you to hold your data on a longer base, or even a shorter base, depending on how you want to, what you're looking for. So what is simply short, what? Your disk, your flash memory card, your USB drives, flash drives are all solid state, are all element of what? Of a secondary storage. Remember, a secondary storage aims to do what? To hold your data permanently, and also to help to ease the capacity of your device. So instead of installing everything on your phone, on your device, on your laptop, what do? You put them on a secondary what? Storage. Optical disc holds up to over 128 gigabytes of data, right? When you go to the shop, you see this optical disc, which are all used as a what? As your storage device, which has its own disadvantage, because as soon as that very surface is scratched, if there are scratch on it, it can affect its performance. So there are different levels of optical disc, which can be CD, CD-ROM, and all the rest, and DVD, sorry, and the Blu-ray. And this once of a standard. So your CD, your your CD, what it does is this, that it can only accept, right? Without what? It can only write without what? Rewriting. You know what? When it saves, it cannot what? Be able to be deleted. Here are different kinds of the breakdown of how each of them works. Okay. Now, when we now most many people today don't really use your disk again, right? We're now in the phase of cloud based. Everything today is becoming cloud, right? Yeah, for example, um, which is a typical example of your secondary storage, right? Now, you have your OneDrive, Microsoft, you have your Google Drive. These are all, and all the rest of them and other ones, right? These are all example of your what? A secondary storage, which is a cloud-based what? Storage. Now, what makes the cloud-based that what? The internet acts as a cloud, right? Of a server, which is an application provided as a service rather than what? A product. That's what? It's a service. There are free ones and there are paid ones. For example, your Google Drive, automatically when you have your email, there is a Google Drive space attached to it, and that is free. But when that space being exhausted, you can now what? Look at it what? You can pay to have it expanded, to have a larger what? Supplied by the server that provide cloud storage of your online storage. So now, instead of holding your files and your data on your hard disk, what do? A cloud-based storage is there to act at the same thing as your hard disk. Now, the more important of your cloud is that you don't need to move a physical device. What you need just for you to remember your username and your login details. Now you can have access to those files any place in the world, provided there is internet connectivity. You can have access to it on your phone, on your laptop, on your desktop, and any other device that is connected to what? To the internet. That you don't need to move your physical device around for you to have access to your document or your file And here are the what? Detailed part of the benefits, advantages, and disadvantages, right? One of them is that the maintenance. You are not the one maintaining this very storage device. The provider does that, do the upgrading, and then file sharing and collaboration. Also, it also enables file sharing. Today now, as a student, you can work in groups, or as a group, as a team, working on the same document without necessarily meeting each other. What do you do? This cloud there are storage services like your through your Google Doc or any of those ones can have you can be able to work on the same document at the same time through the internet, through your cloud storage platform. Also, the disadvantage that what access speed and file security. The security of it is also what being a disadvantage, right? And here are different kinds. There are different companies that provide cloud-based services. Okay, in terms of making IT work for you using your cloud base, this is how it works. When you use your drop box, how you can be able to use it, and then how you can be able to have access to it, and then be able to share your document among yourself with other person. You can even share, giving access to someone just to view without altering it. You can give access to someone to view, alter it, make changes and everything. And also it keeps the audit trail of who opens this document, who does what, and all the rest of them. Okay, so now we have a mass storage devices, which is what to meet the needs of organizations, not just for an individual, a small or big organizations, right? We shall provide that element of what enterprise storage system, safe use of data across organization. That what people can work in one organization, but they're able to share data across the same organization in different locations. Okay. One of them is what storage area network, which architecture to link remote computer storage device, which provide enterprise storage system that can be connected through what the internet into computers to provide local system access. Okay, and that is what um your storage area network can assist you to do that. So career in this very lesson, this very chapter is at what you can be a disaster recovery specialist, right? That is responsible for what to recover systems, failures, and disaster that struck on the network, on the system. Okay, which a few years ago, the average salary ranges between 70 to 80,000 US dollars. Now, when we look now into the future, what do we see? We see the next generation of storage. And what does this next generation of storage entail? It involves the element of what? That hard disk will no longer be necessary or be used to keep your data. How do you do that? That was the way it's looking at the ways of increasing capacity without what increasing size. That the size of your devices does not need to change, like your hard disk of let's say one terabyte. It's still gonna be that 1 terabyte, but what it can hold will be way bigger than what it currently does now. Okay, so we can have a concurrent hard disk max of 120 gigs per square inch, right? And then we can see, so that is where we are seeing. So we're going to be seeing to the future a kind of expanded storage capacity, because now everyone is talking about data. Everything is all about data, and for that to happen, we're going to see more expanded storage capacity of our devices, more than what it currently is. Before now, the amount of data we can see different kinds of an improved number of gigs we are seeing today It's not what it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So things have improved. So going into the future, from now, we're going to see more accelerated improvement in terms of capacity of these devices. So now remember that each of the chapters provide this lesson provide the questions, but this question is what's open there for you to be able to evaluate yourself, assess yourself, to know your understanding of the lesson. Thank you. If there's any question, please feel free to contact me, and remember to go through other um, chapters for your maximum understanding. Thank you so much, and see you next.